the fruit of walking together. Many believers desire to live a life walking with God. However, many fail to achieve this. Often, people have only a vague hope of walking with God and do not understand what it truly means. Without understanding this, it is natural that they don't live in true fellowship with God. Walking with God is not simply about involving Him in the process and outcome of a particular task. To walk with God, there are several steps that must be taken, the first of which is receiving the Holy Spirit. This reception does not depend on our efforts or toil, but on God's grace. Without God's grace, we cannot welcome the Holy Spirit into our hearts. And without the Holy Spirit, we cannot have fellowship with Him. Receiving the Holy Spirit is not merely for the purpose of obtaining gifts, such as healing, tongues, or interpretation. Some misunderstand this, viewing the reception of the Holy Spirit as merely a proof of salvation. The true reason we must welcome the Holy Spirit into our hearts is to engage in fellowship with Him. While it is true that the Holy Spirit comes upon those saved by God's grace, His purpose is not just to testify to salvation, but to be with us and desire fellowship with us. Through fellowship with the Holy Spirit, we gradually understand, realize, and come to know God better. This fellowship is not a reciprocal exchange as we might imagine. It involves moving away from self-centered thoughts and attitudes and learning to adopt God-centered thoughts and attitudes. True fellowship with the Holy Spirit involves learning to think and feel in a God-centered way. And through this fellowship, we bear the fruits of the Spirit mentioned in Galatians: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. As we engage in this fellowship with the Holy Spirit, we come to understand and realize God's nature and will, recognizing the difference between our will and God's will. This brings us to a crossroads where we must choose whether to live according to our own will or according to God's will. At this point, to align ourselves with God's will, we must surrender our thoughts and desires, sacrificing ourselves to God's purpose with voluntary dedication. This voluntary dedication, sacrifice, and obedience is true devotion and commitment. Living such a life of voluntary dedication and obedience is what is called a holy life, or a life of sanctification. This sanctified life is the essence of walking with God. However, it often takes a lot of time and a great deal of self-denial to learn to walk with God. By nature, we are self-centered, thinking, experiencing, and judging based on our own perspectives. Giving up these self-centered thoughts, desires, and wills is not easy. Nevertheless, to live a life walking with God, we must engage in fellowship with the Holy Spirit and adopt an attitude of obedience to God. This obedience must extend beyond isolated incidents or specific tasks to encompass our entire lives. When our entire life is one of obedience, we can truly walk with God. Our God is greater than the vast universe, and we can never fully comprehend Him. We belong to one galaxy among countless galaxies in this vast universe, within one of the countless stars in that galaxy, and within one of the many nations on Earth. How can we claim to fully understand God or His Word? We can only see and understand as much as God reveals to us. When we realize this, we can align ourselves with God's will, willingly offering ourselves in obedience and dedication. Through this obedience, we experience the beautiful life that God leads us to. Live a life of this kind, of obedient companionship. Strive to know God more, learn more, and understand more than you do now. This is the true purpose for which God has called and established us.
구독, 좋아요, 알림 설정 해주세요. Subscribe, like, set notifications.